Welcome to Club Soda's Mindful Drinking Festival. We're online, global, and as always, absolutely free. Hi, I'm Drew, and I'm one of the co-founders of Club Soda.
And I'm Laura, the other co-founder of Club Soda. We help you change your drinking in ways that help you live well. So whether you're looking to cut down, stop for a bit, or quit, you can find what you need from podcasts and books and courses on joinclubsoda.com. This festival, we've brought you an amazing lineup from over 100 people from across the world.
And our programme this time really is global.
Every day starts down under with me, Sarah. As well as organising the festival in Australia, I spend my time looking for alcohol-free alternatives and tips for people who choose not to drink, but who still want to live a social, fun and adventurous life.
And I'll be wrapping up each day here in the States. I'm Amanda, your US festival host and coordinator, and I'm also a mindset coach who helps women change their relationship with alcohol so that they can start living their most authentic life.
Each day with a rolling programme of inspirational panels, conversations, social events, and opportunities to discover new low and low alcohol drinks.
So whether you want inspiration to change your drinking,
Or to connect with other people,
or you want to discover and enjoy a new low and no alcohol drink,
The Mindful Drinking Festival is for you.
cheers!
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 cheers.
Okay, hey, we're live. We're coming in. Hey, y'all.
Hi!
Hi, Mia. Hi, Jardine. So good to see you. Cheers. That's right.
Yay!
That's right. Oh, that's awesome. Well, hey, welcome everybody. I'm Jen, aka your sober-minded sis, sober sis for short, and we've got Amanda Air Ward and Jardine Libert, who are the authors of the Sober Lush, y'all. This is the really, I'm going to bust out and say the breakout book of the summer. And the reason I say that is because I carried it with me everywhere I went. In fact, let me start off with a story of how much I've enjoyed your book this summer. I had to go find it in my pool bag. I was panicking. I was like, where is it? And of course, it was in my pool bag because I took it with me to the beach. I even have a bumper sticker from going to the 30A with your book, and I had to brush the sand off that's inside. This was such a win. So we want to hear all about it tonight. Tonight, we want to hear about your book and just your journey. So I guess start us off. Y'all are both book authors, but how did you meet each other to get this project going?
I'd love to start that. First of all, I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm looking at all these incredible comments from people from Portland and Australia and Indiana cheersing the lush life. And it's such a thrill to be here. I was lucky enough to meet Jardine early in my sobriety. I had been sober. Well, I had gotten sober and gone back out 5,000 times. And when I finally quit for good, a mutual friend said, you have to meet my friend Jardine. And one of the problems I was having staying sober was that I had the same life, but without Chardonnay. And it just wasn't working. I was the same parties, the same people. And so when I met Jardine, I've told this story a few times now. I remember walking into her beautiful home, and she had made this strong French press coffee and was playing a great record, and it smelled fantastic, and there was art on the walls. And I thought, oh, this is what I want. I want a sober life that's thrilling and glamorous and beautiful. And so I'm going to copy Jardine. And that's how we met.
It was really lovely because the friend who introduced us did so in a way that we both felt really like safe with each other, which I've realized is key when you're kind of making those early connections. I know I was so mortified by not understanding my drinking, not understanding what sobriety was. So the fact that we were connected by this really beautiful soul, I think allowed us from the very beginning to have candid conversations in a territory that was, to me, like semi-frightening, you know?
Exactly. I think one of the biggest things for us as women is just, the whole just finding your way, the social aspect as well. Jardine, you and I were talking yesterday, and I said, I didn't get sober minded to get somber. minded. You know, I really wanted to live life to the fullest as well. So is that kind of the heartbeat of your book? That's what I've gotten from it. And I love that your book is not meant to be read in one sitting, cover to cover, like so many of the other wonderful books out there that are more about biographies and a person's story. These are mini snippets and stories. So tell us why you wrote it that way.
Jardine, you want to answer that?
I mean, we used to talk about it in the very beginning when we were just like playing with this idea that it was going to be sort of like a little candy jar that you could pick things out of. And I love, Jen, that you said you had to look for it in your pool bag, because that's what we dreamed of, was that it would be something that you would just carry around and have like in your glove box or something. You know, it wasn't a task to read it, but it was more something that you could kind of just peek into. I found getting sober, I also, like Amanda, tried about approximately 5,000 times to get sober. And I always did it on my own. And I found it to be so lonely and uninspiring. Like it was sort of a chore. I had to do it. There was nothing magical about it. I didn't know what was on the other side. So I think part of the goal was to create a little beautiful thing that you could dip in and out of, that would be not just pragmatic in some ways, but mainly inspirational and hopeful.
I love that.
To move beyond the shame. I mean, I had a lot of shame about my drinking years, and this book is about being proud and loving a life, making an incredible, beautiful life, not a life that has lack and is full of shame and sort of boredom. And we've read so many incredible quit lit books, and both of us had tried. Oh, actually, Jardine, I didn't know if you had tried to write one, but I had tried to write a drinking memoir, and it wasn't very good. It wasn't original, and it wasn't what I wanted to say. And so when we started writing in the we voice, and we talked about what we wanted this book to be, it just worked. And you know, when you're a writer and you start writing and it works, you just hang on and go for it. So,
which y'all both have experience in. You've written other books, so this is not your first book, but this is probably your first book of this nature, of this personal nature. And how is that different for you, just the process? Because if I understand right, you write fiction novels, correct? So this is like not fiction. This is your life. And so what was that like for you as already accomplished authors, to put yourself out there like this?
I thought it was terrifying, and I don't think I could have done it without Jardine, honestly. Sometimes I wrote chapters and I would send them to her. We sort of parceled out, well, you write this and you write this, and what else would be incredible chapters. And I was able to say, I can't do this one. It's not working for me. And it's so wonderful to work with another sober person who gets it and gets that kind of taking care of your fragile soul is more important than any book deal. And so that's how I felt. I think I was able to be so much more brave because I knew by my side I had someone. And this actually did happen, that there were things I could not write and Jardine wrote them for me. and I always felt safe. So we could try things. And I wrote things and then said, never mind, I don't want that in there. I can't do it. And so it just felt like we could try anything.
That's really neat. That's really cool. It's almost like you really had each other's backs in the process, and it's already so vulnerable to have someone really looking out for the way you're nurtured throughout the experience of really kind of bearing your soul and offering yourself to the world.
I mean, there's things I've done. Jardine and I have also walked into meetings in Los Angeles with famous, exciting. I never would have been able to get out of the car. But with Jardine by my side, it's like, oh, here we go. It just feels fun and okay.
Which says a lot about, like, again, I tried sobriety so many times on my own and very secretively, like, because I knew I didn't get sober until I was 40, but I knew in my late 20s that I should. And at that point, there were no online groups. So I was constantly like trying to find things through like the phone book. You know, it's very analog and furtive. And it's just been so amazing to write a book that kind of replicates the way sobriety has taught me how much reaching out is useful, and not just useful, essential. Like,
It is
Amanda and
essential
I
connection.
kept together such good company while writing this, and that has been I finally was able to accomplish a good, healthy sobriety when I learned to connect with other people about it.
Right.
And I just couldn't do it until then. So.
Oh, that's so true. And really, one thing that's really interesting about y'all is your lives look really different on paper, right? You've got the married mom, you've got the single lady who's been sober for, I know Jardine's 7.5 years now. Amanda, I don't know about you. Tell us more about that. But I also think that y'all really have a lot to bring to the table from such different perspectives. And we were talking about how that's something that you haven't really had an opportunity to share about as much on some of the podcasts you've done. And so my goal tonight is to draw out some of the things that maybe you want to be able to talk about more in conversation, and tell us more what that's like with, married mama of 3 and Jardine, just the benefit of having different perspectives.
It's so true. I mean, there were some chapters. I wrote a chapter called The Arsenic Hour about what felt like to me the craziest, most transgressive thing in the world, which was not making dinner, but walking outside and lying in a hammock by myself. That is not something that when I was young and a child, I would have thought was so thrilling. But for me, as a mom of 3, and for a lot of my friends, that was something really, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to say, you know what, you're going to eat cereal because I'm going to lie in the hammock and look at the stars.
Yeah.
And so that things like that definitely came into play. And we had we really have so many more commonalities than differences, but we have completely different lives. That's what's great. And we've talked a lot about with sobriety, because you find that you connect to people who you don't have a lot in common with, although you have more in common with them than everyone else in your life, because they get it.
Oh, that's so true. That is so, so true. What do you think, Jardine?
Yeah, it was interesting to do. But first of all, the Arsenic Hour is one of my favorite chapters, and what Amanda was just talking about was, it was beautiful to write a book where I was enlightened by the book itself, because half of it was coming from this totally different perspective. When you're writing a novel, you're just on your own. So that was interesting and a kind of beautiful piece of this whole journey.
Yeah.
And then it was possible for me to see my own life more clearly, which is, I think, also how a sober community functions. By seeing someone else, you understand yourself better. So much of my fears when I was contemplating getting sober, because I was usually single, were about being lonely. So where Amanda was often writing about, I need space, I need to step out for a second, I was horrified and terrified, that sobriety would actually isolate me and I would be, friendless, and I'm shy as it is. So it was always my bridge to meeting people and socializing. And I definitely got a better, clearer sense of my own trajectory because of the fact that we have 2 different stories.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Jardine, you and I were talking yesterday, and, here's Amanda with young kids still at home. You're in a relationship, but still just, navigating kind of this transition. And then I'm a new empty nester. So I've gone through the whole cycle of now being on this place where now we are trying to find our footing again as just a couple, with our kids kind of grown and flown, as they say. So it's a whole unique thing. Again, I think there's so many stages to being a woman, being in life in particular. But I love what you said, Amanda, that really stood out to me. And I see it all the time in just Sober Sis too. You've connected on an area that you typically don't talk to other people about. And it cuts the small talk right away, and you can go deeper faster with people that you're really able to show your true colors. I think so often we don't even realize it, but we're just kind of posturing out there and just kind of showing up the way we're expected to be in the world. But when you're talking to people about personal growth, shame, like you said, Amanda, and just kind of our deep, dark secrets and all the things that we try to work on by ourselves, when you expose that part of you, it is so instantly connecting And, you know, even the women I get to hang out with, we just go there so much faster. And the bond is sometimes deeper than friends that I've had for years, but we just didn't talk about that. And that was one of the biggest things in my life I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also feel like I can go places. I mean, there's a chapter called The Vanish about how you can go to any party and you can walk out at any time, or gathering or movie or whatever. Remember movies in a movie theater? Anyway,
Remember those?
I have texted Jardine from bathrooms at fancy gatherings and dinner parties, and I'm in a sober group online called the Booze Free Brigade, and I will text from closets and just say, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. And knowing all the time that right there are a group of people who get it has changed everything for me, who get how hard it might be to stay for the second hour of a dinner party, and who will say, you're allowed to listen to that voice in your head that's saying, I want to go, I want to go. Yeah. And in the past, I would have another glass of wine to shut the voice up. Mm-hmm. But it's just a revelation to have those people around you. I think Jardine has probably done a better job than me in making a life full of those people. I have those people sort of online, and Jardine, and it's work. I think we wrote this book to some extent saying, like, we, this tribe of sober, incredible people, like hoping that tribe would then come to me.
Yes.
But here we are.
Totally. We've got a question in the chat. I was going to ask you, we've got a question. It says Facebook user, or I would say your name. It says, what do you hope people take away from your book? I think that's a good question. What do you think about that?
I think some of what we were just talking about is the essence of the book, where for me, being sober meant in more ways than not drinking, how to swim upstream, how to go against the social pressure to be a certain way, to do things a certain way. And in some ways, there are programs of self-care that feel just as regimented to me. I really wanted the Sober Lush to be a way of saying, like to be wild and to let go, and for things to be formless and beautiful, like to focus on abundance and pleasure as opposed to control. Because I think there can be those two sides of sobriety. There can be out of control and trying to handle it drinking, and then sobriety trying to control everything. And the idea that you can find like-minded people that are kind of making their own way, not doing it the way they've been told by society they need to do it.
Yeah.
And really doubling down on whatever you identify as pleasure, whatever you define as abundance and beauty. That would be my dream.
Oh gosh, I love that. That is so true. Yeah. I think for me anyway, as a drinker, that's what I was looking for. I wanted to literally let my hair down and kind of feel that wild and free. And, alcohol promised me that. It told me that we would do that we would have that fun time, or that I would be more creative. I'm actually, you can't tell because it's all my sides are kind of cut off, but I'm here in my craft room. I'm in a very creative space right now with a lot of really cool vintage stuff. And I used to drink in here thinking I could really summon all the creative juices. And what I did was just doled it out. And what I find with what you're saying as well is there's just a whole new creativity that can come with that clear, sober mind. But it doesn't have to be so in control and in the lines. That was why I drank. I was tired of being in the lines. So as a non-drinker, someone alcohol-free, I want to feel still. It's a real rebellious thing to do, to be alcohol-free. What do y'all think about that? Don't you?
Absolutely. And I was going to say the biggest thing that I hope people will take away from the book is that there is this wild, glamorous, crazy, beautiful life on the other side of alcohol. And I didn't hear that message when I was trying to get sober. I didn't get sober until I could no longer live in a drinking life. But wow, wouldn't it be incredible if someone heard this message earlier and didn't have to go to the depths of despair that I went to, trying to moderate. For me, I just speak to my younger self saying, come on over. It's really, really hard. It's going to be hard for a while, but then it's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here, there's a group of us, all three of us are there. Everyone in this room is getting there and questioning alcohol. And I just think it's such an incredible message that it really is kind of new. I feel like at least I never saw it.
Yeah. Jardine and I were talking just 7.5 years ago. You just didn't get on Instagram and see this community. All the books, like we call it Quit Lit, right? All the books and all the podcasts. My goodness, when I stopped drinking initially, and I didn't know it would be my last round of drinking, but it was in April of 2017. I mean, just this whole world of, kind of the term gray area drinking was just starting to come out. And I thought, okay, kind of like to your point, Amanda, it's not always so black and white. And you don't have to have a huge problem with alcohol to want to change your relationship with alcohol. You can change it at any time for any reason. And that feels kind of liberating. Like, oh, wait, I don't have to wait for it to get worse before it gets better. And that's kind of what I was doing because I didn't know the alternatives. I thought, well, not really at the end of the line yet. I mean, give me another decade. I don't know. I guess I could keep going. But I wanted to take that early exit off the highway.
Yeah,
for sure. I'm looking at our questions out there. Terry says, in the beginning, did you feel sorry for yourself because you can't have just one, or feel antsy, or did you feel bored?
That is such a great question. And we have talked so much about that, how both of us did think the non-drinkers were really, really boring. In fact, when I quit, I actually looked around and had many friends who just didn't drink much, but I never called them because I thought,
right.
I'm going to talk all night or like go to an art opening. I just wanted to drink, and pasta maybe too. But I think when I look back now, that was so boring, and
right.
We've talked a lot about travel. I travel all the time and I've done a lot of the world drunk and it was great. But to then go back and I thought, okay, that's going to be so boring to go to Mexico City, for example. I've done that. I've stayed at the bars and met strangers and had long, what I thought was profound conversations that I don't remember at all. And so when I went back, I thought it would be boring. But instead, and the first night, I did feel sorry for myself. I went to bed early in my hotel and I knew the city was buzzing around me. But then I woke up early and rode a bike around the city, and everything was bright and glittering and I didn't hate myself. And I thought, oh, this is a whole new thing. It was like I get to go to every city in the world as a new person now. It's not boring. Now I look back and think that was boring, talking to strangers.
There's like 2 cities. For every city, there's like, you know what I mean? I've gone to New Orleans like this, and I've also gone to the other New Orleans. There's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like New Orleans where I get out of bed at 4 p.m., and barely make it to the happy hour, or you know what I mean? And then there's like this whole beautiful, gorgeous New Orleans that's available all day.
And mornings are just a whole new ball game, aren't they? Yeah.
Mornings in New Orleans are a little dingy. I have to be honest.
But breakfast.
Straight to a restaurant.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We have a question about the quarantine, which I think is very relevant because, we're all affected. And I know this is going around the world, and I can literally say, I think for the first time ever, that we are affected as a global society. So Kelly says, I found the quarantine actually really helpful to not have to answer a lot of questions. Any advice when we get to start to mingle again, and how to signal the change being AF now?
First of all, congratulations. What an incredible thing to do at this awful time. Wow, that is so great.
It's difficult. And we talk about it a lot in the book in different contexts, like how to do that if you're at a wedding, how to do it if you're at a business meeting, how to do it with your best old friends, how to do it with people you've never met. I'm all for lying, cheating, like say whatever gets you through that experience. But I think each person kind of starts stocking their little toolbox of the things that feel authentic to them. Like it feels good to me when I'm meeting people, especially in like in the film world, which I've kind of been working in, to say to people as they're going out, you know, like, take me along. I don't drink, but I love to like vicariously live through you, or just like kind of celebrating what they're doing, like making sure that they don't feel judged, even though I don't think I owe them that. It makes me
Right.
feel more comfortable. But everyone, I think, does have to figure out what feels right to themselves. And then I think ultimately, I'll always say that no matter what, if you're feeling fragile, say whatever you need to protect your sobriety, because
And
that
you don't have to go.
comes first. And also,
Right.
you don't ever have to go, even if it's your best friend's wedding. They will understand if you don't show up at the reception, because you were literally gonna, you know, ruin everything that you've worked for. So
I mean, we have texted each other. Jardine, I didn't know if I could say that. When you were at your own movie premiere with all these stars around you. And I remember at one point you kind of ducked away, I don't know where, and you were just like, whoa. You know, a lot of people are drinking really heavily, and sometimes you think you're missing out, and sometimes you are. And it's worth it. That's what I would say. And so take, you know, a friend online, whether it's from this group or an online group, or, you know, just somebody who gets it, to text, because then you can go. And also the vanish is the ultimate key, that if you're feeling nervous, you can go. But I tell people too much about it. And for the first year, I mean, every time a waiter took my drink order, I'd be like, I'll have a ginger beer. You know, I blacked out on Easter. You know, people were like, whoa, okay, no. But I do tend, before I go to a party with people, I will text everyone and say, I don't drink, but I'll bring something or other, because I just don't want to have that conversation. I don't want to worry about that conversation. And I was just at a writing retreat where everyone would have wine around the fire every night, and then they'd bring me a wine glass of jelly beans.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was great.
I've definitely been like happily surprised when I do tell people who has taken good care of me. You know, if I didn't say it, then they wouldn't have had that chance to pour me something beautiful and non-alcoholic. And it was again a process of learning. Sobriety was a process for me of learning how to reach out to people and ask for help or say what was on my mind. And
Exactly.
that
And
was
just
another
practice.
instance of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think sobriety, just like anything, just takes practice. It's just kind of, you know, I do yoga. Y'all probably do too. And yoga's a practice. You know, I don't show up for yoga perfect and just like nail it every time. It's just practice, and it's trial and error. And I remember when I first stopped drinking, I had friends around me kind of tiptoe because they weren't sure what I needed. And it made me feel weird when a good friend of mine said, I'm going to have a glass of wine. Is that okay with you? And I immediately was like, please do drink, because it makes me feel awkward that you would change who you are for me. Just like I don't want to change who I am for you. We can really coexist in that space with you being you and me being me. And we can respect that and love that about each other. And I think that is the process that you're talking about being able to show up authentically, genuinely. And sometimes those first times out are just a little bit awkward, and that's okay. You know, just to expect it a little bit and say, that's okay.
I wanted to quickly speak. I see a comment that I really relate to from someone who's saying she's now free after being married to alcoholics, and that it's hard to get out there. And I just wanted to say that a lot of people find their place in AA or in moderation groups. And I found my place in Al-Anon, which is one of the most incredible programs that you can go to online meetings or just get this book called Codependent No More. And you really learn to take care of yourself first, which is something that was new to me, and it's kept me sober. That ability to value myself and take care of myself and let other people do what they're going to do. And it gives you the tools to recover from those sorts of relationships. So I just wanted to answer you there.
Oh, that's a great recommendation.
I also, I was single when I got sober, and after trying to be sober and not ever tell the people that I was dating, or never putting it in my like online, you know, profile, I finally decided to prioritize it in my little online profile. And that helped a lot. Like, as a single person who's newly sober, going back out there, it's again up to the individual, but it helped me a lot to say it out loud and say that's what I'm kind of looking for in someone, either for them to be sober also, or for them to at least understand it and respect it. And, you know, I've been with my sober partner for 7 years since. So, and after years of jagged dating, it was a really good breakthrough. So I think starting out single and sober can lead to amazing new changes.
Really
I love
good
hanging
thing.
out with you too, Jardine, because we go to big meals in Los Angeles and then come home and they always have great chocolate by the fireplace.
Oh,
When you're sober, like that's exactly what you want. Is some really good chocolate by the fireplace.
oh, that sounds so nice. In our tribe, we were just talking about self-care and what it is and what it's not. Don't y'all feel like that's a word that's such a buzzword, pun intended? It's such a buzzword. It's just so thrown around. And I think when we use words often, they sometimes become minimized because we just get used to them. I think self-care is one of those words. Let me ask you what that means to you. What does your self-care practice look like?
Well, I'll start. There's a chapter in the book that I wrote called Listen Up. And for me, self-care, I mean, I have this little voice that tells me I'm an introvert, I'm nervous, I'm scared almost all the time. And I shut it up for 40 years because I was the wild one. I would do when my book came out, I'd go on book tour, I'd do any event. I love it. People would think that I'm an extrovert. And when I quit, after failing to moderate, I had blacked out and woke up, and that voice said, "This is not your life." And for the first time, I listened to that voice, and I've been sober ever since that morning. But for me, self-care is listening to that voice, even asking it sometimes. And this is, therapy stuff, but it's the little girl, inside me that'll say, for no reason sometimes, I don't want to be here anymore. And I'll say, I hear you, let's go. Or I need chocolate or whatever. It's not any one thing. And sometimes it's just, something that's hard to give, but I listen to that voice now, and that is my self-care.
Oh, that is awesome. Great answer. What about you, Jardine?
I think for me, that voice, Listen Up, is another one of my favorite chapters. But that voice is key. I'm also an introvert, so paying attention to it instead of ridiculing it and saying you're weak, go out there, be like an extrovert was key. And then another huge part of self-care I learned for myself was how to find those ways of feeling spontaneous again, experimental. We write in the book about lucid dreaming, about zero gravity float tanks, about experiment with consciousness, because I learned it wasn't just always going to be about soothing for me. I also really want to get those creative vibes going. I want to feel excited by the world. To me, that falls under the umbrella of self-care too. So it was good for me to redefine that and figure out what that actually concretely means.
Yeah, I love that. I think too often we're like, it's a day at the spa or it's a massage. It's something so outside of ourselves and so tangible. Well, hello, what if we can't do that? It's got to be something more internal. And so that's great. Mocktail Mo, my friend on Instagram, says, do you all drink cocktail alternatives? If so, was it something you worked towards or something that was sort of an uncomfortable trigger? So what do y'all think about this whole mocktail world?
Show you. I have ginger beer and sweetened lime juice most nights. That's my happy hour drink. We actually included some zero proof cocktails in the book. They can be triggering to some people. They don't happen to be for me or Jardine. Sometimes a glass of non-alcoholic red at Thanksgiving just really hits the spot for me. And I think it's individual. You try it. I tried this thing called Bob Marley's Mellow Iced Tea that I got from HEB in Austin. And I immediately felt really calm. And then I wanted 6 more of them. And so I realized mellow Bob Marley iced tea is not going to work for me.
Not going to do that one.
But ginger beer, I want one and done.
Yeah, I gotcha. I feel the same way as you two girls as well. I have, in fact, in my group, I do all these fridge tours. They've become a little bit notorious now, where I take my phone and I'm like, come on, we're going into the fridge, because if you follow me on Instagram, you know I'm always posting drinks, what I'm drinking. I think it's a big, like, what do you drink when you're not drinking? And so yeah, I could go on and on about all the ones I love, but I always feel like I've got choices, like I've got options. And for me, that's important. I just want to feel empowered, like it's my choice. And now look at all these choices I have.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how, back in the day, to be a vegetarian was something that was so obscure. So few people understood it. The one vegetarian restaurant in the city was always like brightly lit. And now it's graduated to like high culinary world. Like vegetarian restaurants in LA are exquisite. Vegan restaurants are beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love that alcohol-free drinks are becoming that too. They're not just like the one thing on the menu to satisfy the one sober person at the table. It's like celebrating what's beautiful in a glass,
Yeah, because that's a big reason why I drink too, is just the ritual of it, and the fanfare, and my anthropology glasses, and all of that good stuff. I mean, I'll put a sparkling water and some lime in there, and I'll go to town. My sober sis Heidi has the question. She says, speaking of dating, how long should a single, newly sober person wait to get into a relationship, in your opinion? What do you think about that? Because that is
for 20 years. So not only don't I have to, I'd be in trouble if I did.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm the best one to answer either. So,
and I've seen a lot of people try it a lot of different ways, and I definitely think that there's a lot to be said for spending some time with oneself before joining forces with another soul. So whether that's 3 months or 6 months or a year, different programs have different ideas about what that should be.
Right.
And whatever a person decides, I do think there's some credence to it, to what.
I do too. I think it's a healthy thing, because really when you cut out drinking from your life, it really is a relationship. I mean, we all had a relationship with alcohol. I talk about that all the time. We're renegotiating that relationship. So whether it's a breakup or a pause or whatever we're doing with alcohol, it's a relationship. And so I think to bounce from alcohol being the companion and the soother and the escape, we don't want to move to a person to do that. So
could I see someone there saying that someone told her that she's boring when she's sober. And I just wanted to be sure to tell them that person is wrong. And also,
that's right. Maybe they're boring. The person accusing is the boring person.
Yes,
usually the people.
Yeah.
I'm
that's
sure.
That's just me. Oh, here's a great question for all of us, and anyone can answer first. What are you proudest of in your sober life? What's something that maybe we wouldn't have done had we not been sober-minded?
I mean, I'm proud of getting through the first year was difficult, and in writing this book, I feel like everything makes sense in hindsight, and I see how one thing led to the other. But while I was doing it, I felt like a person in the wilderness, like kind of trying to find a new way. And I'm glad I didn't give up. I'm really proud I didn't give up. And then I'm also proud of writing this book with Amanda, because it's been such a special part.
I'm going to show it again because someone asked about it. Talking about the Sober Lush here. It's awesome. Yeah. What about you, Amanda?
I also say, that I'm really proud of this book. I'm proud to be here today on this panel. I mean, there were a lot of years that I didn't think I would get sober. And for me, one of the hardest parts, and I already mentioned the shame, but I have 3 kids, and there were times that I blacked out and I don't know who put them to bed. And I'm so ashamed of that I almost couldn't get sober because I would have to accept that had happened and it was wrong. So sometimes it's like the things were so shameful that I brought them to parties and they saw me tipsy. But if I kept being tipsy, it was like it was okay. But if I really stopped and said, that's not what I want. And so working through that in the first year was incredibly hard. And now that it's been over 4 years, all of those memories, all the shame has sort of burned away. And now all the times that I'm the sober mom at the party who can respond when somebody needs to get picked up, or have a wonderful sober evening with my husband, that pride is just filling all those spaces. And it's really a miracle to me. I'm so thankful.
That's so good. Looks like we're wrapping up here as we're running out of time, but my gosh, that was just so great. And I agree. I woke up this morning, honestly, and I thought, wow, look, I mean, 4 years ago, I could have woken up this morning with a hangover. This morning, instead, I woke up with just so much passion and thankfulness and gratitude like y'all have for just my life now, and just all the opportunities and possibilities that have opened up because I'm not drinking. That would have really not happened, like meeting y'all and being here tonight. It's just so cool. So I'm going to plug your book one more time in case people didn't see or don't know. Go get the Sober Lush. Another thing I'd like to say about your book is it's beautiful. I mean, it is a coffee table book. And anyone who's been to my house knows that this is so my vibe. This is so my style. I told both of y'all that on Instagram. I'm like, really, did you come in my house? Because I almost feel like you designed the book for me. I really appreciate the design of it and just the whole spirit behind it. It's just so awesome. So I'm glad that so many were able to join us. And Tammy has a quick question. I don't know when we're going away, but I know we can answer this. When do we have cravings? When did the cravings go away? What do y'all think about that? Do you remember? I know we've got a few years under our belt, but they're real.
I ate a box of Junior Mints every night for like a year. And now I have no cravings at all, ever. I never, ever want wine, which I didn't think would be possible.
I don't either.
So right there with you. I never thought I would say I would rather just have, a bowl of cereal with cacao on top. What? Instead of a bottle of Pinot Grigio. Who's talking now? Who is this person? So, yeah.
I think they go away when you listen to that voice that tells you why,
Yeah.
If the voice says go home and you go home, you don't crave wine, I found.
That's so true.
Yeah. And when you find all these other beautiful things and they've become part of your daily life, you don't even have to plan it and think about it so much anymore. You just have them, like the chocolate is waiting for you at home.
Wow, that's
it
so
starts
true.
taking care of itself. It's like a little ecosystem of beautiful things, takes the place of the craving. So
that's true. That's true. When we were drinking, it was so monotonous. It was just kind of like Groundhog Day. Same thing every night. And it's just such a homogenous existence. It's like, wow, I guess I know what I'm doing tonight, versus like you're saying, that spontaneity and ability to, hey, maybe something fun will happen here. So, yeah, so good. I'm going to look for any other questions, any other closing thoughts.
I'm just so grateful that we got to have this conversation. It's, again, if I could beam this back to my 25-year-old little self, but I just hope that, some people are able to tune in that could benefit from all the things that are being talked about now in public that just weren't 10, 15 years ago.
That's right. I mean, my goal, just like yours with your beautiful book, is just making conversation available. So it's not so taboo and stigmatized. I was talking to my friend, Angela Pugh, and we were talking about really needing to break the stigma of sobriety. Yeah. Doesn't that sound backwards, right? There's such a stigma around alcohol and alcohol dependency or alcohol abuse or struggle, but there shouldn't be a stigma around sobriety. Is the healthiest thing you can really do for yourself. it's a celebration. It's like, oh man, we should be high-fiving each other, and our society will get there. I think we're really, really going to get there.
We're on the way. Yeah.
Yeah, for
I love this conversation, Jen, and these comments are so great. I'm like, here are our people. We're all here.
I know.
A lot of us.
I know. I was so glad when they put us together. You know, we didn't even really, we just wanted to be a part of this. We just feel so grateful to be a part of this. So when they put us together, I thought, oh my gosh, I've hit the jackpot. I literally carried their book around all summer. I get to meet them. They're like rock stars. You're like sober-minded rock stars to me. I was a little starstruck, I have to tell you.
Thank you.
I see
Thank
someone
you so
posting
much.
a conversation about the book for her newsletter. Get in touch. I like to join those conversations.
Oh, for sure.
I get my ginger beer and start chatting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there. I'm getting the cue to wrap it up and just say thank you, really, to everyone who's watching us live. We appreciate it. I know I saw many familiar faces out there. So, hey, y'all, thanks for watching us. And if you're watching the replay, if you're watching back later, reach out to us. We're all on Instagram. Our website, you can definitely find us. Do y'all want to say where people can find you?
We're on Instagram at the Sober Lush, so definitely we'd love to hear from anyone.
Oh, there we go. We're scrolling on bottom. So y'all follow us, find us, DM us. We want to interact. We want to support you and support each other. We've got a great community here. So thanks for watching tonight. We're really glad you were here.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Jen.
You bet. This is great.
Yeah.